Okay, so we've seen how the URL object holds the URL and checks to see if it's correct. It isn't at the moment, so let's put it back to where it was. What we really need to do now is sort of make the call to this number. Imagine that this is somebody's mobile number and you want to talk to your friend, and we've got to make that call. First of all, we need to set up some rules called handshaking protocols. So this allows one computer to talk to another computer, know how to communicate. I'm going to use the analogy of a phone. It's like you're trying to phone your friend. There's a couple of things that have got to be in place. Number one, you've got to have a phone signal. If you haven't got a phone signal, you can't phone them. Number two, if you're phoning their mobile and it's not them that answers, it's their mother or father or another friend, you've got the wrong person. You're going to have to go through a set of questions. Is my friend there? Can they come to the phone? Lots of rules that need to be set up for you to be able to establish a connection with your friend and then be able to talk or give the message that you really wanted to give. So what we're going to do here is we're going to set up some rules. At the moment, we've got the connection, and the connection is never used. So we're going to start using the connection here. We're going to set some rules on the connection. So the connection is equal to, now we need to use the data type HTTP URL connection or the library. So we're there. And we did the same up here with sort of the button. We had to type the button, activate data being the variable name, but then we needed to use some sort of function, find view by ID, but it needed to be the buttons version of it. And we've got the same sort of thing here. We've got a connection, but we need to use the HTTP URL connections version of it. And what we want to use is a URL. Okay, so if I type URL, we're there. Now, what function do we need to do on this one? We need to be able to open the connection. So there's my first attempt, which is sort of dial the number on the mobile. And the problem that we've got, because there's an error, it's underlined, you notice we've got an unhandled exception. So what it's telling us here is that because we're trying to dial a mobile number, we may not have a connection. Your battery may be dead on the phone, or perhaps you get the person's mother rather than the person themselves. But something is going to go wrong, and we need to sort of handle that rather than let the program crash. And again, if we just click on it, we should get a little red ball at the side, and that's just going to add a catch clause to here. So we've got an input-output exception, and again it's going to, if it is an input-output, it's going to print that stack trace, and we saw that was a lot of blue lines down here which didn't mean a great deal to you. So we're going to copy this log message. We're going to paste our own message in here. Whoops. And this time I'm just going to write a string. We can't establish a connection. Okay, and we need to put the semicolon in the end. Now all we've done is set up some rules. You know, I expect to talk to the person. That's all we've done. The thing that we need to do is press the go button so that we can dial them, and we do that with the connection, and it has a method called connect. I expected to see it in there rather than disconnect. There we go. So now that is the whole thing. We know what their number is. We've set up some rules that we can only talk to the person. We're not going to talk to anybody else. That's if we've got a connection to begin with. In other words, we've got a signal, our phone battery's not dead, and if everything's fine, we're going to connect. If anything goes wrong here, we're going to come down to here. Whoops, we can't establish a connection. Now I'm saying that because I do know that we should not be able to establish a connection for a very, very good reason. So let's run it first and let's see what's happening. Go through this again. I think I've run it so many times it's actually getting slower. I really need to sort of stop the machine, clean it out and relaunch it. I might do it after this small series of videos to speed this up. So let's have a look at the emulator. There we go, it's running nicely. So I'm going to press the button. Okay, when I press the button it will know what the number is, that's fine. It should know the rules, who I want to talk to, and everything should be hunky-dory. However, it's not. Notice we get all of these, the stack trace, and it says, whoops, we can't establish a connection. We haven't done anything wrong. You might know when you download something from the Play Store or anywhere else, it always tells you what permissions you need on your phone to accept the game or whatever is happening. You need to accept the permissions, and that's what's happening here. Is we're trying to use the internet, HTTP, but our phone does not have the permissions to do so, and we have to give it those permissions. The same happens in iOS, but it's a little bit more complicated in iOS. And what we're looking for is in the manifest folder, we've got something called an Android manifest, which is saying what your phone can do and can't do. So I'm going to open it up, and it's telling me all about the application, your application that you're using, its name, where it gets information from, and so on. Not to be worried with that at the moment. But in this, we need to set up sort of all the permissions that it can do. So, for example, if you wanted it to use your contacts list on your phone, you'd need to say you need to ask permission to use it. If you want to use the internet, you need to ask permission to use it. Otherwise, you're going to end up with, I'm sorry, I can't do it. You don't have permission. And it's very straightforward. It's called uses permission. I've opened up an angle bracket because I'm in what we call XML now. And I'm going to choose uses permission. So I'm going to give the program the permission. It's automatically come up with internet. You might find that you've got different values here. You might start off at access check-in properties and you need to scroll through. As you can see, there's a lot of permissions that you need to set to make sure your program works. So if your program doesn't work for any reason, check out that it doesn't need permissions to work. So I'm just going to choose Android permission internet. There's a little red thing at the end waiting for maybe more permissions or the actual closing / and tag. That's it. That has now given my phone permission or my program permission to use the internet. So that's like having a signal before you didn't have a signal or a battery. So if I close that, I can rerun the program, and hopefully this time I won't receive that error message on we can't establish a connection. There we go, we're running. So I think this is a definite reboot of the computer. If I do reboot it, maybe one or two things might look different when we start back up, as some of the windows won't be open and I can't just continue from where I left off. So here we go. This time when I press, because it's got permission, it should be able to access the internet and we should be good to go. And we get no error messages. Now I can't simulate not being able to contact the correct person at the moment. I'll look into that to see if I can give you an example from it. But at the moment, we've done everything we need to do to talk to our web page. We're ready to go. Okay, it's just open and we've made a connection. Now we need to talk. Again, unlike Python, this is a little bit more complicated. We can't just have one line like raw input go and get whatever I need. The way that Android handles strings and talks about strings is quite complicated, so once I've rebooted the computer I'll take you through that. Let's just stop the program, otherwise I get a problem.